Lawrence Douglas, will he go? Trump and the looming election meltdown in 2020. In a Will He Go? Trump and the looming election meltdown in 2020. Lawrence Douglas explores the fears and potential consequences surrounding the 2020 United States presidential election. The book delves into Trump's motivations for staying in office, his disregard for political norms, and the potential for a constitutional crisis if the election results are too close to call. By examining the flaws and intricacies of the U.S. electoral system, the role of the Electoral College, and the divide between the legislative and executive branches of the government, Douglas raises essential questions about the future of American democracy.
Election outcome and constitutional crisis. Legal experts are worried about the potential outcomes of the November 3, 2020, election. If the results are too close to call or if Trump rejects a loss, it could prompt a constitutional crisis. Trump's self-interest may lead to victory via voter suppression or disinformation. He is motivated to stay in office to avoid consequences of ongoing legal actions. The core democratic principle of peaceful succession of power is at risk. Trump's weak authoritarianism. Despite being in power, Trump has not been able to consolidate his hold. The intelligence community's low estimation of the president has been confirmed by the recent impeachment hearings. The American democratic institutions and the Constitution have largely contained Trump's worst impulses. However, the approaching elections are a unique prospect for Trump to undermine the American electoral system because he does not respect tradition and routinely lies to advance his interests. Trump has repeatedly cried voter fraud, which could have severe consequences for the electoral process. The Republicans' partisanship, a divisive media landscape, and the blessing of the Senate Majority Leader have all enabled Trump to break with precedent. The author concludes by pointing out that the American democratic process thrives and its leaders internalize the norms that make it work. The flaws in U.S. electoral process. A government's legitimacy is derived from elections, but flaws like ballot stuffing, gerrymandering, and voter intimidation plague the U.S. system. Despite disliking actions and policies, citizens largely consent to the government's authority. President Trump aims to win at all costs, even defaming working government processes. He panders to those who think the electoral system is unfair and spreads the belief, intimating Americans can't trust the media to report results accurately. Trump creates an air of validity around his lies, and the creation of the Presidential Advisory Commission on Election Integrity to investigate alleged voter fraud was an alarming attempt to legitimize his false claims. Trump's potential election rejection. The likelihood of Trump leaving office quietly is slim, and his claim of voter fraud may be the reason. A defeat could cause a crisis. The complexities of the U.S. Electoral College. When Americans vote for president, they do not vote for their candidate directly but rather a group of electors who pledge to support their candidate. The number of electors is equivalent to the state's total number of representatives in the House and Senate. Despite a candidate winning the popular vote in the state, electors can still be faithless. Winning candidates must receive at least 270 out of the 538 total electoral votes. The Electoral College makes it possible for a candidate who lost the popular vote to still win the White House by carrying a few states with large numbers of electoral voters. The House of Representatives decides who wins if neither candidate receives a majority, with each state casting a vote as a delegation, which could lead to no decision if the delegations are split evenly. While the Electoral Count Act of 1887 provides a roadmap for electoral controversies, it fails to account for issues like faithless electors. If the House cannot choose a president by January 20, the vice president acts as president, but if tied, the Speaker of the House must act as president. Trump's disruptive tactics. The upcoming U.S. elections could be fraught with disruption and chaos as President Trump employs tactics to undermine the democratic process. If the results are close, Trump may refuse to accept them, hold a separate swearing-in ceremony, and run a parallel government. Even if he concedes, he could drag his feet in leaving the White House, casting doubt on the new president's authority. Alternatively, Trump could manufacture a crisis as an excuse to interrupt the normal electoral process. He has previously employed underhanded tactics, including soliciting foreign interference and branding opponents as criminals. The book warns that it's not necessary to disrupt the entire system to undermine an election, and authoritarian leaders have held on to power this way. United States electoral system. America's electoral system is at risk due to its patchwork nature and the possibility of cyber attacks. The Electoral College allows for strategic area targeting, leaving the system vulnerable. In the event of conflicting electoral certificates and a deadlock, the ECA suggests that the governor's certified results should count, but this may not be legally binding. A constitutional crisis could arise if the Supreme Court's ruling is not followed and enforced. The American electoral system entails over 8,000 election jurisdictions, each with unique procedures and outdated equipment. While this diversity reduces the risk of hacking, it leaves room for strategic area targeting by some cyber attackers and thus compromising the election. Congress has taken no action to remedy the situation and protect Americans against such interference. The presidential race in 2020 proved to be tightly contested, with crucial results hinging on absentee and provisional ballots. However, a power outage in a major metropolitan area on the election day led to the use of provisional ballots, which ended up being tossed out. The Democratic Party called for a re-vote, but the Republican-controlled legislature refused, leading to litigation, which granted the re-vote. Due to technical issues, the vote was scheduled for the exact date when the ECA required a re-vote to take place. In the end, the results announced that evening favored Biden. Despite the December 8 re-vote outcome, the Republican-controlled legislature certified the November 3 results instead. The state's Democratic governor went ahead and certified and submitted the December 8 vote to Congress, causing conflicting electoral certificates and leading to a deadlock. The ECA recommends the governor's certified results to count, but the Republicans could claim that this may not be legally binding. If the Supreme Court's ruling on the matter is not followed through with enforcement, it could lead to a severe constitutional crisis for the United States of America. The chaos of absentee ballots. With the 2020 election narrowed down to 3 states, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan, an unprecedented number of provisional and absentee ballots are in play. These ballots, designed to accommodate those who face voting obstacles, provide little federal guidance on how to count them. As the days progress, Biden ultimately overtakes Trump as a result of these ballots, sparking Trump's accusations of voter fraud and lawsuits. The deadline passes as each party stands by their respective counts, leaving the fate of the election in the hands of swing state legislatures and leading to congressional deadlock. The potential damage resulting from such a scenario emphasizes the importance of properly regulated absentee voting in future elections. Challenging the Electoral College. The Electoral College is not a solution to authoritarianism and cannot be abolished without a constitutional amendment. Media must keep citizens informed of the fact that election results can change. The American people hold the power to check election outcomes. A national election system and unbiased electoral commission can prevent meddling. An independent tribunal must handle contested outcomes.
Douglas paints a vivid picture of potential chaos during and after the 2020 U.S. election. While acknowledging the fundamental flaws of the Electoral College, the book also discusses the role of media in upholding democratic values. Recommended remedies include establishing a centralized election system, creating an unbiased electoral commission, and forming an independent tribunal for closely contested outcomes. Ultimately, the fate of the democratic process lies in the hands of the American people, who must be vigilant and informed. With this book, Lawrence Douglas has sparked much-needed reflection on the challenges that the upcoming election, and potential crises it may introduce, could pose to the country's democratic system.